All right, well, hello and welcome, and we're going to spend today looking at Substance. If any of you know me, you know that I am probably way more in love with this software than I should be. Today we're going to look at Alchemist, and we're just going to take some simple textures that we've done up in Photoshop and use the Alchemist features bitmap to material to really make them pop and turn them into multi-channel maps that we can use in Unity or Unreal or whatever fun stuff we're working on. So back here in Photoshop, here is the treasure chest texture we've been working on. It's kind of fantasy treasure chest, and got a lot of cool details in it from Photoshop. It looks really cool. We've got some bolts, we've got bands, and we can see the wood and some shadows around the wood and everything. Looks really good in Photoshop. And then back here in Blender, I've got this applied to our model, and you see it still looks really good, but it doesn't really have the pop that we're looking for. We can see that this is really flat, right? The model itself has got some extrusions around here, so we can see that these parts of the frame for the treasure chest come out, but this little part here that's also supposed to kind of have that look doesn't, because it's just a flat model. So looks good. Thanks to Substance Alchemist, we can make it look better. So I'm going to pop over here to my Substance launcher and head over to Alchemist, and we're going to launch that real quick. I say real quick. So all this is for a texturing class that we have going, which has been primarily focused on Photoshop, but we're going to spend a little bit toward the end here just playing with the Substance softwares. Like an assignment each, very intro level, and kind of see what's coming. We have a whole nother class, DET 315, called Game Materials, where we're going to get really deep into the Substance stuff. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and create a new project. So I have Substance Alchemist open, File, New Project. Call this Materials from Bitmap Textures or whatever. This is just going to be a collection of whatever we want it to be, and this is kind of what I want it to do. So we've got that set up. We're going to use the metallic and roughness, which is a good workflow. Everything else we'll just leave the same and create. So that didn't do anything but create this project folder down here for us. And so I'm just going to go over here and say click to browse, right? So I can start with all these other things in here, but since we're just using a bitmap to start with, I'm going to use this. So click here to browse, and because I'm lazy and want to find things easily, I drop this on my desktop, and here is my texture that is in a PNG form that I exported from Photoshop. So we can do image to material or bitmap to material. Image to material is really only going to show up if you've got a Windows PC and you've got the right kind of graphics cards, like your MacBooks and a lot of your lower end, or just non-supported graphics cards are not going to be able to do this. So I'm just going to use B to M, bitmap to material. This AI-powered one is really cool, and we'll look at that in another semester or in another video. But we'll just use the regular bitmap to material here to keep everyone on board. Something that all computers can do. We can hit OK. You see it's loading up here, and we've got this on a sphere. Kind of standard Maya Unity type controls. Alt to click, pan around, middle mouse to do that. This doesn't really show us what we think this thing should look like. So I'm going to go over here to the viewer settings and to the mesh. I'm just going to put this on a plane for now. So you can see it's already starting to kind of bump some stuff up for us. I'm going to adjust some settings down here at the bottom. I want the displacement quality all the way up. And this is an approximation of what it can look like in a game engine. But the height maps will be a little different everywhere you go. But this gives us a good deal, a good preview. So I'm going to take my tiling down to 1. And now we can see just that one texture that was already UV unwrapped. By default, Alchemist really wants to make everything tiled and look cool so you can stretch your materials across stuff. But we're just using a UV unwrap. So this looks good already, but we're going to play with some of the settings here in the image to material. First thing I want to do is this is set to be a dielectric, so it means wooden or things that cannot conduct electricity. I want this to be a metallic map. And really what we're going to do is just play with these settings in here. So if we turn the height scale way up, you can see it really pops in our normals and our heights and shows the detail that we painted in Photoshop for that metal texture. And the surface scales, just slide that around till it looks good. Somewhere around 100 looks good, and the height scale somewhere, for now, at 20 something. We'll look at this more as we get into some other settings. Light removal, don't think we need in this case. It just adds a bunch more maps, and most of our light in this particular Photoshop texture, really it was just shadows that we baked in, and we're going to go ahead and keep those. We're not going to mess with that. Our height, luminance based is good. You can just kind of play with some of those other things. Actually, mix kind of looks good too. Makes it really warpy. We'll leave it at luminance for now. There we go. Play with that. Pull the large down a little bit so it doesn't push us out too bad and warp us. Really, once we get to this phase, right, the software is doing a lot of cool stuff for us, and we're just tweaking and playing. That looks pretty cool. The roughness, we can play with that. Probably don't need to do too much with roughness. Ambient occlusion, I can scroll this down, is going to be kind of like these spots in here, where we expect them to be deeper, and so we want light to be blocked. But that was turned all the way up and everything was dark. So I'm going to pull that almost all the way down because our height kind of takes care of most of that occlusion. As soon as we turn it up, we get really dark spaces up in here, making that a really much deeper pit where light can't penetrate. So I'm going to pull this down to like 0.1 or something minuscule, maybe half that, 0.5. And then the trick here is going to be in the metallic. So for now, we set this to be metallic up top when we hit that surface type, and it's just treating all of this as metal. But this is supposed to be wood right here, and everything else is metal. So we can try to do a color, and kind of it'll take the color that we give it and say, okay, that's a metal. So I'm going to use the pick screen color here and just kind of grab a medium-ish gray off of my metal. So we tell it just the white is metallic, then it really pulls it down. So we want the metal to shine a little bit, but this is kind of beaten up, so it's not going to be really specular, but that looks pretty good. And so we've kind of faked our way into metal looking like metal, and then this browner color that doesn't match any of that grayscale, hopefully not being as reflective. With that done, we can go back up and play more with our glossiness. You see some of our wood, when we turn that way off, still shines quite a bit. That's one thing we can do. The other thing we could do for metallic is to go back into Photoshop and just pick out everything that's not the wood. So I'm going to go down to my layers here and grab the wood copy. I'm going to control click so it selects that. Control Shift I to invert the selection. I'm going to roll up top here and create a new layer. And I'm just going to fill that with a white. And so this is actually going to make a very sharp difference in our metallic. We could even turn off the wood so it doesn't get weird on us and say, there. Right, so the white is metal, the black or the darker gray is not. And we could export that and use that as a metallic map. We might get a little better result. I'm going to go ahead and just make this absolutely black and white. So that's our metallic map. Everything's either metal or not. And it's going to be really shiny. And we're not going to get a lot of the subtleties from the beaten metal, but I just wanted to show the difference. I'm just going to quickly export that. And again, throw it on the desktop because I'm being lazy. And then back in Alchemist, instead of a color, I can say custom and then give it an image. So here, I'm going to say go look for a metallic map. Go grab that junk I threw on the desktop. And now we've got a very stark difference. You can see our metal shines, the wood just doesn't as much. So when we start shining some really solid lights on this, we will know what's wood and what isn't. That is really, really beaten metal. Just going to play with some of this. Reset my height stuff here. I do like that large pull down. That seems to pull did that pull the medium with it? Ooh, that's fun. Now we're getting a nice bumpy look to the wood. And then I'm going to go back up to the top with our mess with our surface scales. So bitmapped material does a really good job of just kind of taking your flat textures, making them really cool, and then you can just spend hours and days tweaking this until you get exactly the result you want. Just kind of going for a look. And I think our ambient occlusion is still pretty dark in some areas. Alright, so we're going to leave it there. And let's go ahead and change our mesh again and see what this looks like say on our rounded cube. Alright, now we got a full environment. We can see the way the different light plays off of it. And this, if you can imagine, is going to be just a whole lot neater result than the flat texture here we had in Blender. So I'm going to show you one more fun trick we can do with this, and then we'll look at exporting these for use in Unity. So that looks really good, but that's not all Alchemist can do. So let's go back and we're just going to start dropping some stuff on top of this. So we have a really, really nice metal and wood, but I can grab some of these base materials that come with Alchemist and drop some on top of it. And based on the height value that we were tweaking here, now you can see I've got snow all over the top of our treasure chest with the metal poking through. Now I can go to my snow, and I can change the, well, I thought I could change the height. There it is, right there. I want to change the height. which is the offset here, and so I can sink that in, so it's just got a dusting of snow on it. Or I can just completely cover it in snow. And each of these materials has a bunch of cool settings, right? So let's just go down to a dusting of the snow. And then on the snow itself, we've got tons of pebbles, twigs, all kinds of fun stuff that comes with the snow. I'm going to go ahead and turn that one off, and let's try another one. Concrete, rock, cracked dirt would be fun, as would mud. So just to kind of make this look rough, we're gonna, or sand. Sand would be a fun one. Very similar to the snow, and you can see we've just, again, based on our height material, on the material itself, I've got sand that covers some or all of this treasure chest. So very cool stuff that we can do in Alchemist. I'll play with just a couple more because I cannot help myself, and then turn you loose. Oh, that's a cool look, right? We've got cracked dirt. So this is a treasure chest. Maybe Indiana Jones or Lara Croft has just pulled up out of the ground. Got dirt caked all over it. Nice worn look. Super fun. And you can pan that around and get different looks at the metal, or show you this thing in the viewer settings. I can just go to my environment here, and I can rotate that guy around, and you can see the light just kind of panning around it as you've got it still. So good way to preview how your metallic and all your bumps are going. I can turn on one or more of these, so I can do the sand and the snow and the cracked dirt. Turn the snow up, so we've got snow over cracked dirt. You can just layer these things on for days. I'm going to go with that. I kind of like it. All right, so the final thing we need to do is we've created this cool variation on our flat. Again, this is what it used to look like. Metallic and wooden treasure chest. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to export this. So I'm going to export current view. So hit export, export current view. And I want this to be, oh, I didn't save the material. I should save the material first. That would be the smart thing to do. So I'm going to save the current material. It's going to go in my collection here. And this is going to be buried treasure chest. All right, now I'm going to export that, and it's going to take the name of my material, pick a destination path. You can just throw this in your Alchemist library, create a subfolder just for that. And what I do is I have all my Alchemist stuff in the Documents folder. So in my Documents folder, I've got a folder for all of my favorite softwares. I've got one for Algorithmic. I've got an Alchemist. Here's some other stuff I've worked on. So I'm going to select that folder. And so inside Documents, Algorithmic, Substance Alchemist, I'm going to have a buried treasure chest folder with all these goodies in it. I don't need a Substance archive just yet. I'm going to use these as PNGs. So we're going to piece these back together as maps in Unity. So I can use the default, or I'm just going to go ahead and make this a Unity standard preset. I can change the resolution. So I'll get 2K, 2048 by 2048. And then albedo, normal, metallic, height, occlusion, emissive. Nothing in here is glowing, so we can turn that one off. And then I'll just export. And it's still exporting over here, but I'm going to go jump into the folder it's supposed to be hanging out in. Make sure it's the right one. And here are the maps we've just created. So, see if I can open these up. all the software running on this thing, and it's photos that takes forever to load. Well, we'll let it do its thing. So as you can see, this albedo is just the base color. That's still loading. All right, good. We're here. This is just the color, right? It's a flat version of the color. We got the cracks. We've got snow. You can see the metal underneath here. Doesn't look like any of our wood ended up poking through. Got our height map, and this is a black to white scale. So you can see the closer it gets to white, the higher up it's going to bump. We've got some dark cracks down in here where the cracks in the dirt are going deep. So that's the map that's just going to control the height. Here's our metallic, which ended up looking really weird with the redness. I'm not sure what happened there. Looks like some of our dirt and metal, some of our dirt and snow got metal stuff. So the metallic's going to be fun. We'll see what that looks like in Unity later. Our normal map, and so this is our fine detail. So the height map actually, if you've got it set up right, will actually kind of pushes your mesh out, and the normal map just affects the way light scatters across it, so it'll look like it's got surface detail based on the light. That's what the normal map does for us. And then our ambient occlusion, and so you can see our darker areas here are where light in our scene is not going to be able to get in so well. And we've created a full PBR, physically based rendering map set in just a few minutes based on a Photoshop texture. So that's Alchemist. Play, have fun, turn on and off all these extra layers. If you really want to get crazy, you can go to Substance Source and you can see some of that stuff here from the Substance Launcher. There's a lot of different free assets that you can bring into Alchemist and kind of layer over the top of this, the way we just did the snow and the dirt. This swamp ground would be, oh, I'm doing it. Swamp ground would be really fun. I'm going to send that to Alchemist. And it's been sent over. So here we go. So that's free right now from Substance Source, and you can see we got water, we got reflection, we got twigs and leaves, and that's just a whole nother thing. That is really cool. So have fun with Alchemist, and again in DET 315 we will get deep into all the Substance softwares, Painter, Designer, and Alchemist. But for now, this is just a teaser, just a primer, an intro level. Oh my goodness, look what this software can do, and hopefully it'll encourage you to go and play yourself. Have fun.